Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Back on the 49 Chev. On this one here, I'm going to show you a different way to open up body seams. On the back, I cut the corners and I brought the corner edges out. This one here, I'm going to do a little bit different. Also, I have a whole bunch of refabrication I got to do down the bottom there. I'm going to show you how simple you can make complex panels. Stick around. So, we're back on the Fleetline again. In the last video, I turned around and I adjusted the some body seams up here, cut them and split them. There was a lot of work done around here, so how I done it, I just cut it along the edge, tapped it back and welded it, went around there. So I got that all glued up. What I'm going to move on to now is this door on this side, okay? Now the problem we got here is that it's extremely tight, okay? I'm not happy with that. And of course, there's been a bunch of work done to it down here. They grinded it off, trying to make it clear. We'll get into that in a minute. And over here on this side here, they actually welded a lip right on the edge of the door here. And there's a piece welded in the door as well. Okay, so, and up here, this section here is all made up, okay? You can see the way all this is made up along here. It's just pieced in and whatnot. There's a gap and everything in through here. I like to cap that off if I can. And I like to open up this gap a bit more. Going down through here. Same with down through here. Over here now when you look at it, you see what they got done going on here. It's a mess, okay? The bottom of the rocker seems good, okay? And the upper section of the doorpost seems good, up along here. And when you close the door, it seems to want to line up. But the first thing I'm going to do here now is to see how this door sits on its own, is I'm going to remove the latch. I always prefer to remove the latches. I don't like having latches on vehicles when I'm doing work on them. So I can actually figure out what's going on, because I don't know if this latch is pulling the door up, pushing it down, whatever, right? When the door swings freely on its own, then you know that this here is going to line up properly, and the latch is only designed to keep the door closed, and that's it. That's not set up for alignment. You don't align your doors with that. So I'm going to go ahead now, and hopefully I can get them off. Get that latch out of the way, and then see where we're to. So I removed the latch. Everything seems to be swinging freely. There's not hooking or nothing. I can't hear no scraping. Nothing like that going on. This here seems to be lined up pretty good. Another thing you should check before you do anything else is you got to lift up on your door, like so, lift up on it, and check to see what your pins and bushings are like, okay? If your pins and bushings are worn, you're going to have to replace them before you do anything else, because that has a major effect on the actual door itself. This door is really good. This door don't need nothing. I can lift up and down on it. I got no wear on the pins and bushings, so they're fine. So what I'm looking at here now, okay, I got a gap here. This here's the factory seam at that section here. You can see the way this comes out. All this from here to here, this is all factory. And you can see what I'm talking about. I talked about this before, about the way, how bad the seams were. Right here, you see how tight that is here, how wide it gets, and how narrow it gets down here. None of this has ever been reworked on this section of the car. I've seen this before on my car and a few other old Chevys. But you can see the way this here changes. The way it's right tight here, and the way it gets wide here and goes down here. I like to have it a little bit wider than this here, all the way down through here. I find they're extremely tight. All the old cars had extremely tight body lines on them, and I've always found they chipped by the time it gets it all painted and primed and everything. So I'm here sizing up what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about none of the top up here yet, because I still haven't decided what I'm doing with the roof. So I'm going to sit down now and work on getting all this straightened out. But the first problem I got is down here. Is this edge here. I got to take the door off it, because I got to have a look to see what's on the go here, and I don't like what's going on. If you get looking here and I get a light on it, you can see all the little tiny bits of wire sticking out down through there. I got to clean all that off, grind all that down, and see what's going on. What I think is going on here is that when this car was built, and I've seen it before, okay, if you look at this here, this is pretty uniform, okay? The body line here lines up pretty good. The problem I got is a large section down here welded on, but there's nothing welded on here. I'm thinking that the front of this car was put on this car, and it's tipped a bit this way, okay? It's the way they done, and how they fixed it is they closed up the gap and they moved the edge of the door ahead. I don't like doing that. If I does anything, I'm going to move the edge of this fender back, okay? So I'm going to take the door off it now and clean all this edge up, get this door so I'm happy with the actual skin of the door, clean it all up, get it ready so I can put it back on the car again. So I'm going to go take the door off now and grind all that off. So I got the door off it. I'm here now doing inspection on, looking, seeing what I think of it all. Problem I got, there is some major warpage going on down here where they welded the piece in the bottom corner of the door. There's a big drop there, so I'm thinking about just cutting all that off the door and putting a whole piece on that edge of the door. But the inside is what's interesting. They welded it on here, and they got down here on the bottom, I'm willing to say there's a good 1/4 of an inch welded onto the edge of the door. And all they did is you just start welding coat hanger or something on the end of it and start filling it up with weld. So there's a major gap issue going on this car. So I'm going to go ahead down and I'll show you the other side. These doors seem to be in really good shape for what I'm used to seeing anyway. It's a bit of surface rust on them, nothing like that. Over here there's a bunch of work done here. I don't know why. This here was cut out of it and this piece welded in there. So there was some repairs or something done there, but the corner and all that is still good on it. All this was gone on my car, this one up there. There was none of that here. I had to make all this up from here down on my car. But you can actually see here now what they got done. Look. You see how wide the inner lip used to be, it's supposed to be, or how wide it is and how wide it should be. You can see all this here, look. Play music. Right. So I'm going to go ahead now and clean up this door and cut out anything I don't want on it. Cut this all off on the back side of this and not leaving that there, because I'm going to have to put a new lip on the inside lip here anyway when I put that piece in the bottom of the door. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this all cleaned up. When I comes back, we'll move on to the next step. So I went ahead then and I cut the edge of this off of this here. I cut it up a bit high. I've been working on this now. Of course, I got all the metal paint stripped off it. I just stripped it off with a 24 grinding disc. There was rust on this. There was all kinds of stuff. It's like, and that's how I strip a lot of my stuff. It doesn't tear up the metal too much. Anyway, all this got to be filled, so you're going to have to do it with a 24 anyway. But I prefer it that way. It's faster, quicker, all that type of stuff. But I'm here now contemplating on what to do, because all this here has all been welded up and buggered up and done it all. So I may have to stay with the work in the end of the door, because the edge of the fender is in really good shape, okay? This is all in really good shape, and the bracing and everything's on the big inside of it, so I don't want to go getting into that. So like usually I get into that and move it over if the door and the fender are in perfect shape. But in the case of this one here, the door itself is really rough. Now what I'm going to do here now is I got to put a piece in here anyway. And if I got to close the gap up here, what I'm ending up doing, I'll come up as high as I can to where I think the gap looks good, and then I'll cut it off here and I'll put a whole piece in there, and I'll move the edge of the door out so that when I fold it over, I'll have a nice lip all the way along there, and the edge will be nice going down through it. That was one issue. Over here then, I turned around, I went ahead and I stripped all the rocker off, stripped it all up through here, stripped everything down here. There's a few minor issues down here I got to address later. That's the major one. I stripped off the entire quarter panel. Down here, this is wild, right? Like most times I say just keep stuff there, but look. Someone was really getting carried away with the MIG welder on this. So I'm going to go ahead now and refit the door back on the car, because I prefer to do it. Some people would say, okay, I'm going to set this all up and then I'll fold this over and put the door bottom. No, I always prefer to do my door bottoms on the car. So let's get this door rehung. So after some fooling around, tweaking and bolting it and moving it around and, you know, figuring around with it, I run into a problem. The problem was where all this has been welded up, I've been trying to align to this, and that was my mistake. This here has been tampered with, and this here has been tampered with on the top side of the lip. So every time I lined it up here, down here would be in. I noticed that one before I took the door off, the door was in here, but I had a nice alignment up here. If you ever work with a door, lining up doors, okay? The problem when it comes to lining up doors is you got a door like this here. This is your door. When you move the top hinge out, like say if you're moving, this is over-exaggerating, you move the top hinge out, the bottom will kick in, okay? When you move the top hinge in, the bottom will kick out. This is the way the door will move. You would think that the door is only going to move this way when you move it in and out. What's actually happening when you move the door will kick in, and then the bottom will kick out. And then if you move the top out, the bottom will kick in, like so. And the same with the bottom here. If you turn around and you kick the bottom out, the top will kick in. You move the bottom in, the top will kick out. And this is how you figure out where the door's got to go. I've been trying to fit the door down here so that it was nice down to here. But what was happening when I lined this up here, okay, as you can see now, that's extremely low there. When I lined this up over here and bring the top of the door out, this would bring the bottom of the door in here. And I would like to have uniform along the rocker and uniform going up the door here, okay? Once that's figured out, then I adjust my fender to my door. In the case of whoever done this here, wherever the door was, they made the fender fit the door. This is a major issue here where I got to, this door goes in here a small bit. Yeah, no, it's moving on me. That door there, I got to move it in a small bit more on the bottom. So in other words, I'm going to tap this out a little tiny bit on the top. But still, it's way off, okay? You can see it there when you're looking down through the door and the fender, and then it just about here, it disappears. The problem with it is the top of the fender on this here was adjusted and mounted and welded to fit the door, okay? And the problem with it was the door wasn't fitting to the body, which is no big deal. I see what the problem is, and I know what I'm going to address it. I'm going to have to do some cutting and configuring up here in order to get that to work right. But all I'm concerned about now is getting the door to fit right. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to work from the back forward. I got the door fitting where I want it to go, but now I got to work on the seams. You can see how tight the seam is here, and then it goes down along here and it gets tight, and it gets extremely tight as it gets down to the bottom. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to open up this seam here by cutting the quarter panel. Now on the back of the car, I used to cut it right on the lip. I'm going to do a little bit different here. The reason why I done it on the back like I did is because there was a lot of work done around the edges and everything back here. But we got a nice crisp edge down through here, okay? Now, well, you'd like to keep that crisp edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back probably 1/8 of an inch or more, just a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to split it down through there, okay? I'm going to split it down through there and I'm going to tap that back. By tapping it back, I'll close the gap up. And each time that I close the gap up, when I'm happy with this here, I'll end up, if I'm not happy with the gap again, I'll recut it again, tap it, recut it again. I'm only going to do 4 or 5 inches at a time. I'm not going to go right to the end of it to the weld. I'll just do a little bit at a time. This here is a little bit tricky up here because the way this is all shaped up here. I'm not worried about up here right now because I got to figure out something with the roof yet. So I'm just going to concentrate on from here down on this here. So I'll get this here. I'm going to start up here now, work my way down and get a nice uniform gap down there. So that is done. Is all I did. I just cut it down. Didn't worry about going to the shape of the opening. I just cut it straight down through there, cut it straight down through there. Now I'm going to tap this back to close up this gap here and see how my gap looks. So here's where I'm to. You can see now I got a nice gap up along here, coming down along here. I've got as far as here. I got a decent gap along through there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and weld this up. I want to move this back a bit more here, tap this back. I'm going to take it up to here somewhere, just so I got it done. I'll worry about up here later on. And I'm going to turn around, just weld this all back in here, make sure it's not too high, that everything's flush to the door and everything, and just weld up this section going down through here till I'm happy with it before I move on to any further. Like, don't go cutting the entire quarter panel, you're going to run into troubles. Do a section 4 inches at a time, adjust it, weld it up, move on to the next section. So after welding up this section up here, and then I move down here and I cut her down further, and down to about here now, And you can see I got a nice decent seam going all the way down through there. I'm happy with that there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead now, well up this much of it, and then move on. And just continue on, right on down until it gets down to the bottom down there. So you can see all I was doing there, just coming down through there, putting a cut in there, and the cut is back a little ways, so I'm not interfering with the edge there. And I turn around, I tapped it back, and then I cut it again if it wasn't big enough, and I tapped it back some more. And then when I was happy with it, I struck a weld on it. And I moved down here. There was a couple of spots there that when I got down so far, I didn't like the way it was above it, so I went back and cut them, readjusted them. There was one spot here where I went too far with it, and I had to bring it back, so I had to get a screwdriver and twist it and bring it back. But that's basically all I'm doing there now to come down through the seams. I'm going to go ahead now and go on and get all the rest of this done down as far as here. It's the same process, and when I bring you back then, I'll have I have a nice seam going down through there. And there you have it. Nice uniform seam all the way down through. Down here now would have been troubles if that corner was there. It would have been tricky because that's got to roll this way. And I'm lucky enough that I had to remove the piece out of it anyway. But that's fine. You still could work it down around there. It's just a lot more work to get this edge to roll back nice. If this was a rolled edge. But I haven't got the issue. I'm going to have to make it all up anyway. So I'm going to go ahead now. Get all that welded up through there. So I get that grind off. I'm going to finish this off. And then move on to doing this piece. And there you have it, all grind up. You got a nice seam now up through there. Right, lots of room there. And looks presentable looking. And that way there, you're not interfering with this edge. You still got the factory edge on it. And you're doing all your welding out here on the main panel, right? And when you open your door, then you haven't got to worry about none of this being changed. Because none of this here has been cut or mangled. The door's still original there, right? So it looks nice. Then when you look in here, this still looks original down through here. So you get a nice little seam just by moving it over. There's a lot of movement in these on these outer edges. Like you could probably look there and you can almost see where that's rolled out a small bit. But the, you know, the whole door post will move over enough for you to get a good gap on a door like that, right? But I'm pleased with that. That came out nice. Now I'm going to move on to get that one done. Now this one here, it's a bit of a tangle, okay? You got a lot of angles and everything going on. We got to make this shape here. And then when he opens up the door, we got to come down through here and flow this way. We got to come down from here, flow this way. We got to come down from this way, flow, and this way, flow, right from there to there. You're saying to myself, like, oh my God, it's too much to be at. You can see what this was all about here, look. Ooh, that was rough. Let's not overthink this. One step at a time. Let's worry about this here, worry about that there. One at a time, one at a time. Okay? First thing I went and did is I found a piece of metal that's bigger than it, all that type of stuff. I cleaned it off. I put a bit of a crack contour on it to follow the flow of the vehicle, like so. All I'm going to do, let's come over here. I'm going to position this now and clamp that to the bottom of the door there. And I'm going to mark that around there. So that's all I did. I marked it with just a marker and the width of the marker, and now came down to here. Now if I cut all that off it, that will give me my gap all the way around there, because if you look at that there now, there's a bit of a gap down here, right? Coming off it. So I'll cut this off, taking the marker and everything right off it, and clean up this edge here, and then I'll have the shape that this is supposed to be. I'm not worried about making my own. We want this here to fit to the door, and that's all that matters to us. So I'm going to trim this off here now, and that'll be my first piece. Now anytime cutting around corners with a big old grinder, you want to do it with a small wheel. All done with a grinder. Here's all I went and did. I closed the door. I fit that where I thought it looked good. So the seam looked good here and it flowed up to here. I raised it up a small bit so that I could overlap on top and overlap over here. So I moved it over a bit so the gap's a bit smaller here. Reason for that is I'm going to build a panel on the car, tack weld it all together, get it all fit, take it off, weld it all up, grind it all up, and then I can fit it in. I can do the cutting butt along here to do that then. But this is the easiest way to do it, one panel at a time. I got the seam figured out, and I got this flow. Now all I got to do is open the door, if I can get at it, is to build my second piece, which goes from here. This flows down here and goes over and right into this here. So I'm just going to take a random piece of steel now, put here, and get to this shape here, and tack weld it on there, so it's nice and strong, and go from there. So now that I got this one here figured out, this here goes down around here. It's nice and parallel to everything here. This is the next one I got to figure out here is go from here to here, okay? Don't overthink this, okay? So all you're thinking about now is going from here to here with some sort of flat place that you can actually get it to flow like this here. Forget about the templates, okay? All I went and did is took a flat piece of steel, okay? It's tested a little bit wider, trimmed it off so it fit in there, and I notched it. I notched it because I wanted it to go in past it, like so. So when you look at that there, it slides in underneath there like that. That there will fit in there, and that there will fit in there. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to push this in place here and tack weld it in along here. There, I got tack welded in place. Got a lip on it all the way around. I'm not worried about it right yet. Okay, all I'm after is this angle here, okay? So all I want is that flow there. Got lots of meat there. I can grind this off. I can grind this off after. I got this made a little bit longer in there. So when I put this piece in here, I got something to weld to in here, and I can grind the back side off of that. Now, I got to figure out how this here flows. So let's go over the other side and size up and see how this is actually shaped. As you can see, this is the piece we got put on now. This one here. So now I need to put this one on. Now this one here flows from here and goes right on into here, but there's a bit of a bend in it here that comes in around here. And then this here flows down and goes flush to the top of this here. And the desk ties into it. So let's not worry about nothing else. Let's get this one here straightened away. We're going to come make a small piece now to flow down. That'll go from here up to here and have a little bend in it down here. So remember that piece that we cut off of this bottom one? That'll fit right in there right nicely. So I just got it marked off roughly there now, and I'll trim that off, and then I'll have a piece to go there. Now you can overthink this. All I'm going to do there now is lay that in place there. So I'm happy where it's to, and I can worry about the shape of it going to, like, just got to come up, that's like stuck off a bit there, that comes off that way. And it fits it in place. All I'm going to do is lay that in place there, that I'm happy with it, and tack weld it in place there, down through there. So I got that piece, and I'll shape it then to fit it. Just got to make sure that the distance here is consistent going down through here. So I went ahead, I got that tack weld in place. I put a little bend in it here, forgot to tell you that, because it comes down and turns and it bends this way here. And then I tack welded in along here. It's too long this way here, it's too high here. Not worried about it. All I'm worried about is getting this plane now. I got this one, I got this one, and now I got this one. So now I'm going to do it, I'm going to trim this back. I'll use a grinder, maybe use a stone or something, and the zip blade, a small zip blade, trim that off there so that it's flush to the top of this here, and it's flush to the bottom of this, and it's a consistent, like it flows nice along there. So I'm just going to start trimming that up there now so that fits nice. So I used a little cut-off wheel on my air grinder. Then I turned around and put a stone on it, and I shaped it. I got it so that it was flush up here, and I got it so it's flush down here, okay? And then I done a uniform shape so that it'll flow from one to the other. It gets wider as it comes down here, so I let that flow like that. Then I went ahead, now I gotta do this one here. Same process as before, simple little piece of tin. That has to flow from here, come down flat to this here, so I'm going to tuck that underneath this here. I'm going to be cutting that out later. I'm not doing it right now, because I'll get this piece made up like so. And that will go like so. So I'll go ahead now, position that down there, make sure all that's nice and flush, and tack weld that one in place. Now don't that look lovely? But I got this one, this plane here. I got this shape here, this shape here, this shape here, this shape here, and this here was supposed to flow down here, supposed to flow down here and go into here, and it's supposed to be like the same distance from here to here as what it is down here where it ends. So, and then it all goes flat from there. So I got that there all fitted up. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to trim this back a little small bit here, and this flows down here and fades out. I'll probably do that first. I'll trim that off first so that much is done. And then I can take this panel off, weld it all up, and then dress it all up. I know it's rough looking, but it's a lot faster to do it this way. And I'm doing it on the car. Each time you overlap the panel like this here, when this gets cut to fit and slides in behind it, this here, all these planes here will line up pretty good. So, just look at that. That there is the making of a replacement panel. What are you talking about, Tony? You're cracked. All I'll do here now is I'll come in here. This is an inside edge, so I'll weld this all in here. Okay, and I'll weld this all in here. The inside edge here. This outside edge here, I'll weld this all in outside here, and that'll be rounded out. And then I can turn around and start trimming this all up, so it'll all be one piece. When I get this piece fit that I'm happy with the two, I can start working on the very last section to go in there. But that's how I make complex panels. So I got it all welded up. I got it all welded up on the inside here. And the inside here, them two spots there. What I'll do now is I'll come back now with the grinder and the zip blade and stuff like that. And I'll just cut all these pieces off that I don't need now. I'll trim all this stuff off here and all out here. And get this so it looks like something. And then I can start dressing it all up. So I'll get that trimmed up there now. So there you have it. I trimmed it all up. Then I welded it on the inside on both sides. So now it's all ready. I got lots of material here now, because you can see I got that welded on the inside there. I can take this outer section now and I can dress all this out here. I'm going to use a stone in here and round out this edge here, same with this one here, and then grind this all off flat. I'll flatten it here and I'll flatten it here, and then I'll roll off the edge. Give that a real nice rolled edge and around there. And I'll probably have to trim off the ends here to square off the panel up the top the same way, just so I got a nice square panel there. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this all grinded off. It's the same process I've done many times before. Just grind it flat here, I'll grind it flat here, and then I'll roll over my edges. The inside itself, I'm just going to do with a grinding stone. I'll use my air grinder here, and I'll use the stone, which is over where. I'll just use my stones. I got different size ones that'll go in there. They're just wore out. They're older ones, right? And it gets really small. And you can save them for getting in tight areas and stuff like that. And I'll just use that with my air grinder. That's all I'll use. Nothing fancy. Might take the die grinder in there and probably clean it up a small bit. But I think this is a pretty big radius that I should be able to do it all with these here, right? So I'm going to go right ahead now and get this all sanded down. Make it look like something better than that. I got a lot of responses from this whole thing in the last video. Yes, it's a small block Chevy, not a Ford, not an AMC. It's a small block Chevy push rod. I built a bunch of these, 25 years ago at a shop I worked at. I was the third man on the floor, 3 spots. So we all knew who owned what blow-off guns. And so I turned around, I figured I'd put that out there to show you guys, and it was a bit of fun, and I got a lot of responses on it. Very simple. It's just an old chuck that I had kicking around. It's it's a female one. So this here, the end of this is cut off, right, and then slip down this and then just weld it around there, and then it's great. And what I like about it is when I put it on cars and stuff like that, the end of this is a hardened tip. You can wipe this over a hood of a car, anything like that. I've used this for years while I was painting. Great for getting in around windows, moldings, all that type of stuff. And you haven't got to worry about your finger getting tired blowing the car off, pressing on a button and holding on the button. Just plug it in and just go. Just hold on to the blow gun like that. Just blow away around everything, get all the dirt and everything off, getting ready for paint, right? That's all I ever used. This one here and this one here, simplest tools are probably the best tools, okay? This is an old scrap piece of I-beam. I've talked about it many times. I'm going to talk about it again now. I got kicking around. It's great for clamping stuff on, okay? I had that kicked underneath my bench. I never made this. I picked this up just like this here. It's all burnt off and slagged off on the ends, see? Nothing fancy. What I like about this is the whole point I can clamp to it. I can change the angles to things, okay? I can stand it up as I'm clamping stuff onto it. I can work with it, okay? So it's a great little thing to have around. It's got enough weight that it can hold its own when you're going with a grinder or something like that. And if it do move on it, you can always just move it out, clamp it to the bench right here, see? So all you can do is just clamp to the bench, way to go. So that's just another simple little tool that I got. And, you know, it's good to have around, especially when we're making all these small pieces up like this, right? So let's get this grinded up here now. So here's what I'm to. I grinded it all off. I'll use the stone on the inside here. It's all I use is to grind that off in there. I just use the stone. The stone is rounded off, okay? You can see there's a round edge on it. That'll give me my contour on the inside there. So when you look down it like that, there's an actual crown going through the entire panel. Now I can get pretty crazy and go back and weld this up again and make this look absolutely perfect. But that's good enough for me. A little smear and that'll be brand new, right? So, and on this outer edge here, all I did is I grinded a flat here and a flat here, and I got a sharp edge on it here now. I done this here now so I can actually see the way this is going to flow. I went over on the car and I done a test fit on it to see where the shape of it and everything was to. So now I'm happy where everything is to. I had to cut a bit more out of down here. So now I can go ahead now and I can round out this edge here and this edge here. This in here, I'm not worried about it right yet because I got to put one more piece on this yet. And on the inside, all I did was just knock the head off everything just so it wasn't so thick or anything like that. I left the inside edge here alone, and that's all there is to it. As you can see now, that looks like something there now. It's almost done, almost ready. I'll put one more piece on it, but I want to get this much of it done first. I'm going to round out these edges now first thing, and then I'm going to go over and test fit that on the car. So I went ahead now, and I fit this in place here, and I just put a marker around it where I figure it's got to go. Now the problem you got is this panel is overlapped. This panel has got to go over and down, okay? That you know, over exaggerating it because it's overlapped here and it's overlapped here, so it's got to go down here and it's got to go in this way here, so it's got to go that way, okay? So what I got to do is I'm going to start trimming this off here now a little bit. I'll leave most of this down here for now just so I got something to lay it against. And I'll trim this off, and I'll start test fitting it until I get it to a spot where I figure I'm pretty close, that this here is the right height here, and then I'll start using the door then to line it all up and get it fitting nicer. So I'm just going to start trimming this off now. I'm not going to cut it out to the marker. I'm going to cut it off in here, cut it off down here, just slowly creep up on it until I'm happy to where that's going to fit. So I'm here now. I've been cutting it, fitting it, tweaking it. I had to tweak that panel a couple of times to make it fit in there. I was going to make this other section and put it in all in one piece, but I've decided it's very tangly here. I can't do the lap joint here. It brings out the bottom of the panel too much. It's got to rotate in. It's so short. This corner here sticks out too far. So I went and marked it and then I cut the fit, trimmed it, cut it, trimmed it, cut it. These, you know, when you're doing cut the fit stuff, it takes a while to get stuff in place. Not everywhere you can use the cutting butt, especially if it's got to move in the entire section in order to get it lined up right. I want to have it looking good before I actually weld it fully in place. I want to tack it here and tack it here and get it where I want it, and then I'm going to tweak it, right? But I got it all trimmed up there. I went ahead and painted everything black there, painted the back of this black here. It's just a rust paint, okay? This metal I'm using is 18 gauge metal there. Using CO2 gas on my MIG welder, 023 wire. Okay, it's just a 110 MIG welder. Other than that, a lot of people keep asking me the same questions, and that's what they usually ask me. So I figured I got to keep reminding myself to say it in every video. So I'm going to go ahead now and get this here fitted in place and get it tacked in and get it so that I'm happy with it and get it welded in. It was tricky getting it in there. Still had to be tweaked over a small bit, moved around. It's still not 100%. And you can see what I'm talking about when you move panels over. I've been trimming this back, and it wasn't fitting. And then when I got everything where I wanted, this opened up on me because I had to move it back a bit more. Because what I had to do, I had to rotate it this way in order to get this here to flow right to the door. But it's a tricky piece to get in there. But as you can see, when it's all said and done, it's going to look the part when it's done, right? So, but you can close the door on it. The magnet on it. You can see it's got a nice little seam all the way around it. So all that's good, and it looks down across that way, looks good. Looks good and across there. And across there. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this welded in place, because I want to get the outside of this welded up, because I got some, drop that magnet. I got some tweaking to do in here, but I don't want to disturb none of this shit until I get all this here welded up. And I want to get to some strength in this here, so I'm going to use the old infamous coat hanger trick. What do I do with that? There it is. It's got an old coat hanger here. I'm just going to put that in there, weld that up there, fill up that gap. So, anyway, I'll get that welded in there now. there you have it, all welded in. I can honestly tell you, I think I had an easier time making this than I did welding this in. It was just that it had to be tweaked. It had to be just so, because I had to have it back far enough, low enough, and in far enough on this corner for to clear the door. Because if I put it in, it would have stuck off too far off on the bottom edge of the door, and it wouldn't look right. But now with the door closed, you can see it there. Nice transition, going from one to the other. Nice body seam. These transitions here were always key for me, where you got two panels meeting up. Usually there's a lump there, and usually there's a lump there, right? So I always concentrate on these transitions from one piece to the next, and I like to try to make them look as clean as possible, because there's nothing worse than having a bit of a high spot there and a bit of high spot down here where you went, or well, right here where you put the piece in, right? So, but I got that done. So now I got to move on to the intersection. I'm pleased with how all this turned out. All this floated and nice in here. Come down with all the panels, okay? Now in here, this comes down. This has been roughed up. I'm not getting into this in here right now, but I want to dress this up here to come up as far as here. So I'm going to put a piece to come down to here, to about here, and then I'm going to put a piece from here to here, because there was a join along here, if you look, sort of like this here, but the door post only comes down so far and stops, and then the panel goes right in, because there's a lot of work been done to here, and I got a piece here and to worry about, so I'm just put a large piece, the full length of that there, and I'll probably come into there like that, and just put a large section here, just have it done, and I'll put the little piece that wants to go down there. So I'll get the piece cut out now and get that installed. And there you have it. I wasn't getting into showing you everything I done there, because some of it is, like this here is overlapped. I just did an overlap weld here, because where's two, this is covered over with a sill plate. And it goes, there's still more work got to be done. I got to bring the floors out to here. This is the top of the rocker panel that I got put back onto the panel itself. And I put a few spot welds in through here. And then I welded along the edge here. What I just done here is I took the metal and put it on a 90-degree bend. That'll give me a nice strong edge here to weld to. So then I got a weld edge there, and I can grind it off nice and smooth. This piece up here is just another flat piece, and I just turn around, I come down to this, lap welded there, welded on. I put a lot of heat into this edge here, because whereas two, I haven't got to worry about warpage. So I put a lot of heat in this here, so there's lots of penetration here, so I got lots to grind with. And then I just did a little cut and butt up here on this top section up here, because I can get at the back side of it here to haul the piece out. So that's the extent of what I built for this corner. Was a lot of work involved in it. Made up multiple pieces, all done with a welder. Nothing fancy, okay? All I used to grind this all up with was these 24 grinding pads. You can see I cut them down. So all I do is I just use an old pair of tin snips, and I just keep trimming them down bit by bit. This is what they starts out to be like, okay? And I just keep trimming them down. I use just regular roll stones that I saved up. They got round edges on them for doing in around roll corners in here. And then when I got done with all this here, where all the panels joined, right here I want to transition on the inside corner, right nice. And then along here, all I did is I took an old zip blade, and I just turned around and put that on that grinder there. I just went in there and just slowly just turned the grinder down and just worked it so that the transition going down through there is all consistent, right? Transitions are everything when you're building panels, trying to get the both panels to go in together, because when it comes time to do the repairs and fill this, all that, it's going to be kind of hard to try to have a high spot and have to grind it down. But now I can run my finger down through there and I can't tell where this panel ends and this panel begins, right? And same with right here, and same with down along here, right? So, but I'm pleased with that, the way that all came out. As you can see, the way I made that multiple pieces, don't overthink it, okay? Like, you know, you're after this shape here, this shape here, this shape here, this shape here is what you're after. Work on getting them. Don't worry about trying to complicate this and try to make it, you know, making this out of one piece or templates, all that type of stuff. I just, you know, just stick to simplicity of it. And like I made up this piece here and trimmed it so I had my shape. I laid a flat piece against that, and then I butted a piece up against that with shaped like it and welded that onto that, and so on, as you see me do. and then I just trimmed it all up and ground it all up, and now you get a nice transition there, and it all looks original, okay? So there you have it, door closed. We got nice seams all the way down through there now. Looks good all the way along the bottom there. The transition looking down through the door this way. You can see the little light going up around there. It all fits right nice to the corner of the door. Going along there. There's a lot of work there, a lot of work going on in here. I wasn't expecting to get into that. Up here on this other section of the door here now, I'm not going to start on this now because I got to cut the top of this fender clear and readjust it. So there's a lot more work here I got to get into, and so I'll cover that on the next video. So I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, hit like and share. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe down the bottom of the page. If you want to donate to the channel, down below there's a button, Super Thanks button. If you want to click on that, it'll take you through the motions of making donations to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. We also got merchandise. Pop over to Fitzy'sFabrications.com and check out our merchandise. We have hoodies, sweaters, t-shirts, and stickers. Lots to choose from. Thanks for watching.